the big news this week here in town is DeSean Jackson comes to the Redskins from Philadelphia. And I obviously you are more than qualified to give us your insight on this as well. But one of the things I wanted to talk about before we start talking about X's and O's with him is the way it went down with him in Philadelphia. I have a bad taste in my mouth about it. I didn't like the way it looked to me like a business decision. They didn't want to pay him. They didn't have the money. Maybe he didn't fit the culture of the locker room that Chip Kelly was trying to, produce there. If that's the case, fine. You have the right to get rid of a player. But to start pulling out other stuff,
right,
which has never really been a problem before, I had a problem with that.
And that's the thing that a lot of people have, raised their eyebrows at. When you have a situation like that, you don't want to pay the guy, that's fine. Don't pay him, just like you said. He has a chance of going free agency, and then you not trade him, that kind of thing, for whatever reason. That's fine. That's a business decision. You move on. He don't fit your culture and that type of deal, but just leave it at that. The minute you begin to put different accusations out there, it really, it doesn't really hurt anybody.
I agree.
But the player, don't get me wrong. At the same time, it's an opportunity. He's still going to have his best opportunity. It's really not going to hurt him in the long run.
I agree.
When you look at it, because at the end of the day, he's still one of the fastest receivers in the game.
He's a great football player, the bottom line.
He can catch the ball. He can go make some plays. He's going to have an impact on your offense. And other teams know that. That's why he had so many teams looking after him, looking at him to come to their team.
But doesn't Chip Kelly, well, maybe he didn't understand that not too far from Philadelphia is one of the wealthiest teams in all of sports. Did he not think for a hot second that a team that was looking for more playmakers was going to go after a guy? Now you do have to play him twice a year.
I don't understand their thinking or their reasoning behind it, because I'm going to hold on to him until, I get the picks I want or whatever, because he's that type of player. And
sure.
The numbers he had last year, it set Philadelphia up really to make a big decision when it comes to, we should trade him, get what we can get for him. It'll better our team. He'll get what he wants going to a different team. But to let him go and not get anything.
That's lunacy. That's lunacy.
The first thing you're thinking is, what are they thinking? But it's got to be, something under the rug, something under the carpet, or just maybe Chip Kelly this is who he is. His second year in the league, maybe that's just who he is. But at the same time, somebody in that front office got to say, we got to do something to get something for this guy.
And this is kind of look at the Titans right now.
Yeah.
And they release Chris Johnson. I'm baffled. We're still talking about one of the best running backs in the NFL, and to just let him walk basically with a sandwich in his hand. That's just not good.
Right.
You could have equipped yourself with a 4th-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, something.
You take something. And I think sometimes you get owners and personnel who just decide, well, we're better off without him. Well, you're going to be without him regardless, but get something for him. You look at Chris Johnson's situation. His first 3 years, he was off the chart. I think he had 36 touchdowns. The last 3 only had 16. Been nicked up a little bit.
Sure.
But you look at that offensive line, they haven't been the same either, in terms of protecting and blocking and that type deal. So it's a different situation or different feel with that. But at the same time, it goes back to the same principle. You want to get something for those type players, because somebody's going to give something for them, because they're impact players. Again, speed is the name of the game in the NFL, and those are two guys who, they possess that type of speed.
Game changers. I think you're talking about now from a Redskins offense that had, some pieces here or there. You had Pierre Garçon coming off a record-breaking year last year. You had Alfred Morris. But there's so many guys now. You bring in Andre Roberts, which I think is a huge acquisition for them. A guy that's going to eat underneath in the slot. You're familiar with that spot.
Yep.
You look at him. There's a significant upgrade. You bring back Santana Moss, who is that wily veteran, that's going to keep the guys in line. Maybe there are going to be a couple games they didn't get a couple balls thrown their way.
Right.
He'll let them know what the big picture is. It's to win the Super Bowl. How do you see the wide receivers now forming on this team? A weakness now looks like a strength overnight.
Overnight. Don't get me wrong. When you say it went from a weakness to a strength overnight, exactly that. Because this team, they have a running game.
Sure.
They got a quarterback that can throw the ball and put it where it needs to be, and he'll be tested even more, this year coming up. And with him being healthy, having DeSean coming in, it opens up the passing game. You talk about Pierre Garçon having the year that he had last year.
We didn't even mention Jordan Reed.
Exactly. I mean, a tight end who just came out of nowhere and started making the big-time plays, stepped up when he was supposed to step up. So now you have an offensive game plan. You're not just going in and try to, from a defensive standpoint, you're not just going in trying to attack the running game, stop the running game. You have to play both. And when you have a DeSean Jackson that can just blow the top off your defense, you got Pierre Garçon that can come underneath. Most of the time when you see them those 3 wide receiver set, they can run and pass out of it so effectively now that it's going to be hard to cover. They got the same offensive line coming back. They're going to be in there.
They made some upgrades on the offensive line.
Made some upgrades, but for the most part, that line is intact. I mean, those core guys are guys who've been there for the last 3 or 4 years or whatever. And with that being said, they went and did a great job in terms of adding some pieces. Now, the question is always going to come down to what are they doing on the defensive side? That's going to be one of the biggest things.
Let me ask you, you look at everyone that can benefit from this.
Right.
You see Alfred now. They're not going to be able to put 7 in the box. You see RG3.
And that's going to be a problem.
Of course, RG3. Look around the field now. He has options in every part of that football field. Jordan Reed now, what linebacker is going to cover him?
Right.
Pierre Garçon is not going to get double-teamed anymore. Who's fast enough to cover DeSean going down the field? My question to you is, what single player on offense benefits the most from DeSean Jackson coming there? It might even be DeSean Jackson.
I mean, if I'm a quarterback, and I've been a quarterback, I'm benefiting from that. I mean, it clears out everything. I mean, let's just talk about the cover 2 defense. We're having two safeties at the top. When DeSean Jackson takes off running, they got to rotate. They have to honor that. Now you got your tight end that can come underneath. You got Pierre Garçon who can run a deep dig without worry about getting hit by the safety, get hit by the linebacker, because you got Reed who's taking the linebackers out and he's coming into a clear hole and then can catch and run. I always go back to the play they had in New Orleans. I think it was maybe Robert's first game. Maybe.
First play.
And when he hit Pierre on that crossing route and he got hit back or whatever, still completed the pass, and Pierre Garçon took off. You'll see a lot of those situations come up this year. Reason being because you have DeSean on the one side that can just again blow the top off the defenses. But who benefits? I gotta say Robert benefits the most because now it can. Depending on what his offense is. Now don't get me wrong, got a new coach.
Well, Gruden's offense is known to be a pass-first offense, not pass-only. Right. But I think last year in Cincinnati they passed the ball. They ran the football 44% of the time. The year before was 41%. So the numbers show that they will pass, 2-to-1. They're gonna pass.
What I'm saying is in terms of everybody getting it down. Being able to buy into it. This is our offense. This is what we're going to be able to do. This is the approach we're going to take it, and we're going to be all in. If you got all those guys all in about this offense coming together on one, they should be very hard, very hard to stop. I mean, you got a back in the backfield that can run the ball. Let's just say they run it 44% of the time. That's good as long as they're running effectively 44% of the time. And you get that most of the time when you got a guy like Alfred Morris in the backfield that can run the ball.
I'll give you a perfect analogy here, folks, that I think – am I saying Alfred is as good as this guy I'm getting ready to say? I'm not saying that. But if you look at LaShawn McCoy in Philadelphia, what DeSean Jackson did for him, when they had a coach that came in and said, hey, we're going to stretch this field out, what he did for him, what a guy like Jeremy Maclin before he was injured, Riley Cooper last year, you can't stack the box.
Right.
So I would be shocked if Alfred Morris didn't average close to 5 yards a carry next year.
It would. It's going to be it's going to be tough for defenses because they now are equipped even more.
Yeah.
I mean, with the weapons that they have, they are. Yeah, we talked about Jordan Reed. They have. I mean, they could literally. I mean, we don't want to speculate too soon. But let's just say they've got some weapons. It's a big upgrade when it comes to
We didn't even mention the old man. We didn't even mention Santana. What's he going to do when he gets out there?
But let's go. Let's say we're in the 4 wide set. I mean, who you double teaming?
You can't. There is no one that can get good.
The best teams, the best defenses that are going to be effective against an offense like this has to have a front 4 that is lights out. I mean, the edge guys, the defensive end can get up the field, put pressure on the quarterback, and your two interior guys have to be able to put pressure. Go back to Tampa in 2002 who did
Absolutely.
it. The two Giants teams who, when they played against New England in the Super Bowl,
they have
the problem they had pass rush. So Brady, although, they met the Giants stayed in cover 2, and normally Brady will pick them apart, but they were getting pressure with the front 4. When you can get pressure with the front 4, it makes it difficult. But, I mean, if the Redskins don't have those type of issues, it can be a lot very difficult for the defense coming up and trying to defend these guys.
But before we go to break, folks, right now, sitting here at Hooters here in Fairfax, Virginia, myself, Lake Lewis, also Antwaan, Randle, and I think that the excitement here for this is there's some people that are guarded. I had a good friend, actually texted me today and said predictions already, and I'm like, it's early to give predictions, but I do think that the team has drastically improved itself. Not just with the acquisition of DeSean, but with some of the other guys they brought in. I thought Jason Hatcher was a good find for them. But I told him, I said, listen, this team is a year removed from success. Right. A lot of these young guys remember what that was like. Last year was just an anomaly. That was something that I've never covered anything like that in my life. It was that bad. I've never seen an insubordinate coach, to say the least. So just forget last year. Am I saying, though, that this team is that good that they should be back playing Seattle again? Maybe, maybe not. But I can tell you right now today, the talent level on this team is better than what it was when they won the division 2 years ago. Yes.
I agree. I agree.
And the quarterback, and I'm telling people this right now, he's 100% healthy. No knee brace, looks good.
That is
he's got a chip on his shoulder too.
And you know he does. I mean, he had a chip on his shoulder. He felt like he should have won number 1 when he first came out. But you got to remember him having this offseason. I think it was now people ranted and raved about sitting him down those last 4 games. Great idea. I thought it was great. This not only assured he wouldn't have an injury those last 4 games. He would come into offseason really prepared and really focused, not really having to put a whole lot of stress on his knee and that kind of thing, but just working out without, worrying about his knee, without that being the focus and the concern. Now it's like it was the first year coming in, and he's learning a new offense. So everything is set.
It's fresh.
It's fresh. It's exactly where it was when he came in the first year, and we know he's a hard-working guy, so it's just a matter of, them putting this thing together, getting the practice and coming together as a unit. And they can make some noise, and I think they really got a chance to make some noise. So I mean, you got to go ahead and say, watch out, NFC East. I mean, you have to say it.
I told my friend today, listen, they win the division going away. I told him that, and this isn't being homer. Listen, I'm a national media person, but I'm saying right now, I truly believe. If you look at the Giants, they've made some great acquisitions on defense.
Yeah,
not enough though. I mean, you lose a Justin Tuck. That's a big blow. I mean, from a leadership perspective. You look at Philadelphia. Philadelphia, to me, had DeSean Jackson still been there, I would have said this is one of those up-and-coming football teams. I like Jeremy Maclin. I like Riley Cooper. And obviously their thinking is, I covered the combines a couple weeks ago. I saw the greatest wide receiving class I've ever seen. They feel like they're going to get someone in the first round that's a game changer. But that person, I don't care if it's Sammy Watkins. He's a great player. He's still going to be a rookie. He's not a DeSean Jackson, at least not yet. Oh, yeah, I understand that. We have a Clemson fan in there. But she understands what I'm saying.
Yeah, it is. Like, again, you look at Dallas. I mean, they've lost some pieces on defense. It is NFC East. It can really end up coming through Washington. I mean, because of the upgrades they've done. It's going to be interesting. And I think the biggest thing is going to come down to it, again, the Redskins, what they always have every year, if they can keep away the drama.
Yes.
If they can just keep away the drama, it's going to be a totally different team. Now, adding Ryan Clark, that's going to help.
That's going to help keep away the drama.
That's huge because he's a different figure in the locker room, and don't get me wrong.
And you can attest to this, having played with him here and having played with him in Pittsburgh.
Well, Pittsburgh, when I was coming, he was leaving.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was coming, he was leaving. But just, knowing Ryan Clark, going back and playing with him, my last year in Pittsburgh, he's a guy, who's going to keep the cap on things in the locker room.
And
there's going to be a lot of meetings to say, you know, everything goes on, needs to stay right here in the locker room. That's it.
Okay.
So I think that's always big because what happens, something goes down, it goes out, and now it becomes drama. I guarantee you, I don't think you're going to see any of that stuff going on this year.
Well, look, one thing we do, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, I want to talk to you about your stay in Pittsburgh and your stay here.
Yeah.
Just as far as maybe what DeSean Jackson is going to experience coming here from a different town, especially a town with a rabid football fan base.
Right.
You experienced that in 2 markets.
Yeah.
But I want to get your thoughts on what's the difference when we come back. We'll be back right here on Sports Journey Media live from Hooters here in Fairfax. Hang tight.